I need a strong husband, and you need a daughter, the giant mail-order bride declared to the struggling cowboy. I need a strong husband, and you need a daughter. That's what the giant mail-order bride told the struggling cowboy, but what she really meant was, I need someone to love us when the world says we're unlovable. Mara Thorne, 6'1", widow mother, stepped off that train and saw Davis Colton waiting. He was shorter than her, worn down by life, alone. And when their eyes met, something impossible happened. Recognition, like two souls who'd been searching, finally found each other. I need a strong husband, Mara whispered, her heart hammering. And you need a daughter. But what if she couldn't finish? What if this becomes more? What if I fall in love with you? What if you break my heart? Davis looked at her, this towering, beautiful, terrified woman, and felt something wake up inside him that had been dead for years. Want, need, hope. What if this becomes real? He said softly. What if we stop pretending it's just about what we need and admit what we want? Behind Mara, little Rosie whispered, Mama, he's looking at you the way Papa used to, before Papa changed. And Mara's breath caught, because this struggling cowboy was looking at her like she was beautiful, like her height didn't matter, like maybe, just maybe, she could be loved exactly as she was. But could the giant mail-order bride let herself fall for the struggling cowboy when falling meant risking everything? Could he love a woman the world called too much? Could they transform a desperate bargain into a love story? And what would happen when little Rosie asked the question that would change everything? If you two fall in love, does that mean you'll love me too? The Montana wind kicked up dust around them. Other passengers moved past, collecting bags, greeting family. But Mara and Davis stood frozen, staring at each other like the rest of the world had disappeared. Mara forced herself to look away first. She couldn't afford this, couldn't afford to feel. She'd come here for protection, for security, for a legal claim that would keep her daughter safe. Romance was a luxury she couldn't risk. Mr. Colton, she said, her voice artificially steady. I appreciate your kindness, but let's be clear about what this is. A transaction. You need a daughter to secure your inheritance. I need a husband to protect my parental rights. We both get what we need. Nothing more. Davis flinched like she'd slapped him. Nothing more? Nothing more. Mara's jaw set, but her hands trembled as she adjusted Rosie's small coat. I've read your letters. Your mother's will states you must have a daughter residing in your home by your 40th birthday, or the boarding house passes to your sister. You have less than 2 years. I have Rosie. She's 6. Well-behaved, legitimate according to any legal document you'll need. I'm not asking about legal documents. Davis stepped closer. Close enough that Mara had to look down to meet his eyes. Close enough that she could smell leather and soap and something else, loneliness that matched her own. I'm asking about you, about her, about what happens when we're not performing for lawyers and judges. What happens in the quiet moments? What happens when nothing happens? Mara interrupted, panic rising in her chest. We're housemates, co-parents, partners in a practical arrangement. That's all. Rosie tugged on Mara's skirt. Mama, you're lying. You do that voice when you're scared. Mara's face flushed. Rosie, hush. But Davis knelt down, bringing himself to Rosie's eye level. What voice does your mama use when she's scared? Rosie studied him with those 2 old eyes. The hard voice, like she's made of stone instead of mama. She looked up at Mara. You're doing it now. Davis stood slowly, his eyes never leaving Mara's face. Why are you scared? I'm not. You are. His voice was gentle but certain. You're terrified, and I think I know why. He glanced at the other people on the platform, then back to her. Can we go somewhere private? Please, just to talk. That's all I'm asking. Mara wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain her walls, wanted to keep this cold and businesslike, because cold and businesslike couldn't hurt you. But then Davis did something that shattered her resolve. He looked at Rosie and said, Would it be all right with you if your mama and I talked for a few minutes? I promise we won't go far. You can see us the whole time. Rosie blinked, clearly surprised to be asked her opinion. You're asking me? Of course. You're part of this family we're building. Your voice matters. Nobody ever asks me, Rosie whispered. I'm asking. Davis smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and made him look younger, less burdened. What do you think? Rosie looked up at Mara, then back at Davis. I think you're nice. And I think Mama needs someone nice. She squeezed Mara's hand. It's okay, Mama. You can talk to him. I'll wait right here with the bags. Mara's throat closed. Her 6-year-old daughter was braver than she was. Rosie, I can't just leave you. I'll stand right there. Davis pointed to a bench 15 feet away, still in clear view. She can watch us the whole time. If she needs you, she just has to wave. Mara looked between them, this struggling cowboy who was being impossibly kind, and this daughter who was silently begging her to try, to trust, to take one step towards something that might be good. 5 minutes, Mara said finally. That's all. They walked to the bench, sat. The wooden slats creaked under their weight. Mara kept Rosie in her peripheral vision, watched her daughter settle on the platform edge, swinging her little legs, patient in the way children shouldn't have to be patient. Talk, Mara said. You wanted privacy. Here it is. Davis turned to face her fully. Why are you so afraid of this being real? The directness of it caught Mara off guard. I'm not. You are, and I need to understand why. Because, Mara, I saw your face when you stepped off that train, before you put on your armor. And what I saw wasn't just desperation. It was hope. The same hope I felt when I saw you. He paused. So what happened between that moment and now that made you shut it down? Mara's hands fisted in her lap. She shouldn't answer. Shouldn't give him ammunition to hurt her. But something about his eyes, brown, honest, waiting, made the truth spill out. Because I've done this before, she said quietly. Not the mail-order bride part, but the hope part. I married Rosie's father when I was 20, and he looked at me the same way you're looking at me now, like I was beautiful, like my height was magnificent instead of monstrous, like he wanted me exactly as I was. What happened? Life happened. Reality happened. We got married, and 6 months later I was pregnant, and suddenly I wasn't beautiful anymore. I was huge, ungainly. He started making comments, little ones at first. Maybe don't wear that dress. It makes you look bigger. Try not to stand so close to me in public. Things like that. Davis's jaw tightened. He was a fool. He was honest, Mara corrected bitterly. After Rosie was born, it got worse. He'd come home drunk and tell me the truth he was too cowardly to say sober, that he was embarrassed by me, that men laughed at him for having a wife who could probably beat him in a fight, that he'd made a mistake marrying someone like me, someone like you. Davis's voice was hard. You mean someone strong, someone capable, someone extraordinary, someone too much. Mara's voice cracked. He said it over and over until I believed it. Until I started making myself smaller, hunching, apologizing, trying to take up less space. And it still wasn't enough. He still looked at me with disgust instead of love. What happened to him? He died. Fell off a horse while drunk. 3 years ago. Mara met Davis's eyes. And you know what my first feeling was? Relief. Because I didn't have to try to be smaller anymore. Didn't have to apologize for existing. Didn't have to watch love turn to contempt day by day. And you think I'll do the same thing? Yes. The word came out broken. Because you're looking at me that way now. With want, with attraction, with possibility. But eventually reality sets in. Eventually you'll notice that I'm taller than you. Stronger than you. That people stare when we walk together. That I'm too much. And the way you're looking at me now will change. Just like it did with him. Davis was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that made Mara's heart stutter. He took her hand. Her large, rough, calloused hand that had always been too big, too masculine, too wrong. And he lifted it to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hear it. Really hear it. Can you do that? Mara nodded, unable to speak. You are not too much. You have never been too much. Your height is beautiful. Your strength is magnificent. Your size is perfect. And any man who made you feel otherwise was a coward who couldn't handle being with a woman who outshone him in every way. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. I don't need you to be smaller, Mara. I need you to be exactly who you are. Because who you are is extraordinary. Tears burned behind Mara's eyes. You don't know me well enough to say that. Then let me know you. Let me prove I'm not him. Let me show you that real love doesn't diminish you. It celebrates you. He squeezed her hand. Give me a chance, not as a transaction. As a man who wants to court the woman who took his breath away. The moment she stepped off that train, I don't. Mara couldn't form words around the emotion choking her. Then let me start, Davis said. Let me show you who I am. Let me earn your trust instead of asking you to give it blindly. And before Mara could respond, Rosie's voice carried across the platform. Mama, are you and Mr. Davis done talking? Because I'm hungry, and I'm trying very hard to be patient, but my stomach is being very impatient. They both laughed, surprised, relieved, grateful for the interruption that broke the intensity. Davis stood and offered Mara his hand. Let's feed your daughter, and then let's go home, to our home, and we'll figure out the rest one day at a time. Mara took his hand and let him pull her up, and for the first time in 3 years, she let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be different. The ride to Davis's ranch took an hour through Montana wilderness that made Mara's breath catch, despite her determination to stay guarded. Rolling hills stretched endlessly under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Pine forests gave way to open grassland, and beside her on the wagon bench, Davis drove with steady hands while Rosie dozed between them, her small head heavy against Mara's arm. It's beautiful here, Mara said quietly, afraid to wake Rosie, but needing to fill the silence that had grown comfortable in a way that terrified her. It is, especially in spring. Davis glanced at her. Your letter said you'd been living in mining towns. Not much beauty there, no, just dust and desperation. Mara adjusted her arm around Rosie. We moved 11 times in 3 years. Every time I found work, something would happen. My late husband's brother would find us, or someone would complain that a woman my size shouldn't be around children, or... She stopped. It doesn't matter now. It matters. Davis's voice was firm. Everything that brought you here matters, because it's part of your story, part of what made you brave enough to answer my advertisement. I wasn't brave. I was desperate. Those aren't opposites. He guided the horses around a bend. Sometimes desperation is what makes us brave enough to reach for what we actually want, instead of settling for what we think we deserve. Mara looked at him, really looked at him. In the afternoon light, she could see details she'd missed at the train station. The silver threading through his dark hair, the lines around his eyes that spoke of squinting into sun and distance, the way his shoulders carried weight even when his hands were gentle on the reins. Why did you place that advertisement? She asked. Your letter said you needed a daughter for your inheritance, but you could have married any local woman, had children the traditional way. Why specifically advertise for a mail-order bride with a daughter already? Davis was quiet for so long Mara thought he wouldn't answer. Then because I can't have children. My first wife, she left me 6 years ago because of it. We tried for 5 years. Nothing. Doctor said it was probably me. She wanted children desperately. I couldn't give them to her, so she left. I'm sorry. Don't be. She did what she needed to do. And honestly, the not having children part didn't break me. What broke me was realizing she'd never actually wanted me. She wanted the idea of me, the ranch, the stability, the children, but not me as a person. When I couldn't provide what she wanted, there was nothing left. Mara understood that pain in her bones. My husband was the same. He wanted the idea of me, the strong wife who could work alongside him, but not the reality of me, not the parts that made other men uncomfortable. Then we've both been chosen for what we could provide instead of who we are. Davis met her eyes. Maybe that's why we can see each other clearly. We know what it feels like to be used. So we'll be very careful not to do that to each other. Something in Mara's chest loosened. Is that what we're doing? Being careful with each other? I hope so. He turned his attention back to the road. Because, Mara, I meant what I said at the station. I want this to be real. But I also know you're scared. So I'm not going to push. I'm going to show up every day and prove I'm safe. Prove I see you. Prove that I'm strong enough to love you exactly as you are. You keep saying that. Strong enough. Like loving me requires strength. It does. But not the kind you're thinking. Davis pulled the wagon to a stop as they crested a hill. Below them, nestled in a valley, sat a ranch house with a red barn and fenced pastures. That's home. And loving you requires the strength to stand against every person who's ever made you feel too big. The strength to celebrate what they tried to diminish. The strength to be vulnerable enough to let you see me clearly, too. Mara stared at the ranch house. It was smaller than she'd expected. Weathered but cared for. The kind of place that looked like it had stories in every board. It's not much, Davis said, misreading her silence. I know it's not what you probably hoped for. The ranch is struggling. I'm in debt. The house needs repairs I can't afford. But it's solid, safe, and it could be a good home. For all of us. It's perfect, Mara whispered. Because it was. Not because it was grand or wealthy, but because it looked like the kind of place where you could finally stop running. The kind of place where maybe you could belong. Rosie stirred, blinking awake. She sat up and looked at the ranch below. Is that it? Is that where we're going to live? If your mama says yes, Davis said. What do you think, Rosie? Could you be happy here? Rosie studied the property with serious eyes. Then she pointed to a small structure near the barn. Is that a chicken coop? It is. With 6 hens and a very grumpy rooster named General Grant. Can I feed the chickens? Every morning if you want. Rosie's face lit up, the first genuine smile Mara had seen in weeks. Mama, can we stay, please? I want to feed General Grant. Mara's throat tightened. She looked at Davis, who was watching her with patient hope. She looked at her daughter, who was already imagining a life here. She looked at the ranch below, where smoke curled from the chimney like a welcome. We can stay, she said, and felt her daughter's joy and her own terrified hope crash together in her chest. They drove down to the ranch house. Davis helped them down from the wagon, his hands steady on Mara's waist, careful and respectful. He scooped up Rosie and set her on the ground, making her giggle. Welcome home, he said simply. The inside of the house was sparse but clean. A main room with a fireplace and a kitchen area. 2 bedrooms, furniture that had seen better days, but was sturdy and well-maintained. It smelled like wood smoke and coffee and possibility. The smaller bedroom is for Rosie, Davis said.
I already put a bed in there.
It's not fancy, but it's perfect, Rosie breathed, peeking into the room. There was indeed a small bed with a quilt that looked handmade, a window overlooking the pasture, a rag rug on the floor. Mama, I have my own room. My very own room, Mara's eyes burned. Rosie had never had her own room. They'd always shared, sometimes a bed, sometimes just a floor. And this one, Davis opened the other door, is the main bedroom. It's yours, Mara. I'll sleep in the barn loft. There's a bed out there. It's comfortable enough? The barn? Mara turned to him. Davis, this is your house. I can't. You can. And you will. His voice was gentle but firm. I told you I'd prove you're safe here. That means you get privacy, space, time to decide what you want this to be. I'm not going to pressure you by sleeping 10 feet away, but people will talk. If they find out we're not actually, let them talk. Davis shrugged. What matters is what happens between us, not what people assume. Rosie tugged on Mara's skirt. Mama, Mr. Davis is being very gentlemanly. That's what Grandma used to say about Papa before he changed. That he was gentlemanly. Davis knelt down to Rosie again. Can I ask you something? Okay. Would it be all right with you if I tried to court your mama? That means I'd like to get to know her better. Take her on walks. Maybe have supper together sometimes. Would that be okay? Rosie looked at Mara, then back at Davis. Will you be nice to her, even when you're tired or angry or having a bad day? Yes. Will you make her laugh? She used to laugh a lot before Papa died. I miss her laugh. I'll do my best. And will you... Rosie's voice got very small. Will you maybe love me too? Not just Mama. Me too. Davis's face crumpled with emotion. Oh, sweetheart, I already do. From the moment I saw you holding your mama's hand at that train station, looking so brave and so scared, I felt something in my chest that felt an awful lot like love. Rosie launched herself at him. Davis caught her, stumbling slightly, and held her while she wrapped her small arms around his neck and cried. Not sad crying, relief crying. The kind that comes when you've been holding your breath. For so long you forgot what breathing normally felt like. Mara watched them, this struggling cowboy holding her daughter, like she was precious, and felt every wall she'd built begin to crumble. Then yes, Rosie said into his shoulder, you can court Mama, but if you hurt her, I'll be very angry with you. That's fair. Davis met Mara's eyes over Rosie's head, and in that look was everything he'd promised. Patience, respect, the kind of want that didn't demand but offered, the kind of love that didn't diminish but celebrated. And Mara thought, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can let myself hope. Maybe I can let this become real. That evening they had supper together. Davis had made stew that morning, and Mara baked biscuits that made him close his eyes in appreciation. Rosie chattered about General Grant and the chickens and her new room. And slowly, impossibly, it started to feel like family. After Rosie went to bed, Mara and Davis sat by the fire, not touching, careful distance between them, but comfortable. Thank you, Mara said. For today, for being kind to Rosie, for not pushing, I told you. I'm going to show up every day and prove I'm safe. Davis stared into the flames. And Mara? I meant what I said to Rosie. I'm already falling in love with both of you. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But it's true, Mara's heart hammered. Davis, you don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel it yet. I just needed you to know. So there's no confusion. No pretending. I want you. I want Rosie. I want this family. And I'll wait as long as it takes for you to believe that. And sitting there in the firelight, with this man who saw her, really saw her, Mara whispered the most terrifying words she'd ever spoken. What if I already believe you? 3 weeks changed everything. Mara woke each morning to the smell of coffee Davis made before dawn. She'd find him in the barn, mucking stalls, and he'd smile like seeing her was the best part of his day. They worked the ranch side by side, her strength finally an asset instead of something to hide. When she lifted hay bales he struggled with, he didn't look embarrassed. He looked grateful, proud. You're magnificent, he'd say, watching her work. And he meant it. Rosie bloomed. She talked more, laughed more, started calling Davis Papa Davis without asking permission, and the first time she did it, he cried, but it was the small moments that undid Mara completely. Davis teaching Rosie to gather eggs, his patience endless when she got scared of the rooster. Davis braiding Mara's hair one evening when her hands were too sore from work, his fingers gentle and sure. Davis standing between Mara and a town merchant who made a comment about her unfortunate size, his voice quiet but deadly. Say one more word about my wife, and you'll regret it. My wife. He'd said it like he meant it. Like she was his to protect. One evening Mara found him reading to Rosie before bed. She stood in the doorway watching and felt her heart crack wide open. This was what she'd wanted, what she'd been too afraid to hope for. When he finished, he looked up and saw her. Come here, she did, sat beside them, and when Rosie fell asleep between them, Davis whispered, I know we're supposed to be taking this slow, but Mara, I'm in love with you, completely, hopelessly, and I need you to know. I love you too, she breathed. I'm terrified, but I love you. He kissed her then, gentle, reverent, full of promise. Everything was perfect, until the knock came. The knock shattered their peace like a gunshot. Davis opened the door to find a tall man in an expensive suit, flanked by 2 ranch hands. Behind Mara, Rosie went rigid with fear. Uncle Garrett, Rosie whispered. Mara's late husband's brother smiled coldly. Mara, found you at last. And I see you've acquired a husband? How convenient. His eyes swept over Davis with contempt. Does he know what you are? What you've done? Get off my property, Davis said quietly. Not until I collect what's mine. That child, she belongs with family, real family, not with a woman who is her mother. Davis stepped forward, legal, biological, and the only parent she's ever known who actually loves her. Love? Garrett laughed. That woman is unnatural. Look at her, 6 feet tall, Stronger than most men. She killed my brother, you know. Worked him to death trying to keep up with her demands. Your brother died drunk, Mara said, her voice shaking. Falling off a horse. I didn't. You drove him to drink. With your size, your strength, your refusal to be what a woman should be. Garrett pulled out papers. I have a court order. She's coming with me, Rosie screamed. Clung to Mara. No! Mama, don't let him take me. Davis's hand went to Mara's back. Steady, supporting. That court order is invalid. Rosie is legally my daughter now. Adopted, documented, you have no claim. Garrett's face darkened. You can't have adopted her. You've barely been married a month. 3 weeks and 2 days, Davis said. And I filed the papers the day after we married. Judge approved it yesterday. Rosie Anna Colton. My daughter, legally, permanently. You want her, you go through me. You? Garrett sneered. You're nothing. A failing rancher who needed a woman and a child to claim his inheritance. Don't pretend this is about love. You're right, Davis said. And Mara's heart stopped. I did need a daughter for my inheritance. I was desperate, broke, running out of options. And when Mara offered me Rosie, I saw a solution to my problems. Mara felt the ground drop out from under her, but Davis kept talking. That lasted about 5 minutes. Because the moment I saw Mara looking at me like I was her last hope, and Rosie holding her hand like she was the only safe thing in the world, I stopped seeing solutions. I started seeing family. My family, the one I choose, the one I'll protect with everything I have. He turned to Mara. I love you. I love Rosie, not because of what you can give me, but because of who you are, both of you. Exactly as you are. Davis, Mara's voice broke. He faced Garrett again. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave now, and if you ever come near my wife or my daughter again, you'll discover just how strong I actually am. Garrett looked between them, saw something in Davis's eyes that made him step back. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Davis shut the door in his face. The moment the door closed, Mara collapsed. Davis caught her, held her while she shook with relief and fear and overwhelming love. Rosie wrapped herself around both of them. You chose us, Mara sobbed. You really chose us. Every single day, Davis whispered. For the rest of my life. I choose you. 3 months later, they stood in the same judge's office. But this time, it wasn't for adoption papers. It was to make their marriage real in every way. I need a strong husband, Mara had said at that train station. She'd found one. Not strong because he could overpower anyone. Strong because he knew how to love without diminishing. Strong because he chose them every day. Strong because vulnerability didn't scare him, and Davis had needed a daughter. But he'd gotten so much more. He'd gotten a family, a purpose, a love that transformed his struggling ranch into a thriving home. That night, with Rosie asleep in her room and the Montana stars bright overhead, Davis pulled Mara close. I love you, he said. My beautiful, magnificent, perfect wife. And Mara, who'd spent her whole life being told she was too much, finally believed she was exactly enough. So here's what I want to ask you. Have you ever felt like you were too much? Too tall, too strong, too loud, too different? Have you ever hidden parts of yourself because you were afraid no one could love the real you? Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Because maybe someone out there needs to hear that they're not too much. They're exactly enough. And tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories like this travel. From Montana to wherever you are, remember, the right person won't ask you to be smaller. They'll celebrate everything that makes you, you. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Because there are more stories like this. Stories about finding love when you least expect it. About family built from broken pieces. About being brave enough to hope again. You deserve to be loved exactly as you are. Don't ever forget that. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss stories that remind you that you're worthy of love. See you in the next one.